Welcome to the LoDown, a LoJack podcast, where we focus on retail automotive and the technology, trends, people, and processes shaping the industry. Hello and welcome back to the LoJack podcast. I'm your host, Rene Garcia. Before I bring on my guest for today, I would like to remind our dealer audience that LoJack by Spireon will be at NADA this year. And if you're a dealer who is not selling LoJack currently, then we'd like you to stop by and experience a demo for yourself. And if you pre-book your appointment, then we'll give you $100 after we meet at NADA. To schedule your appointment, visit LoJack.com/NADA 2022. That's LoJack.com/NADA 2022. We can't wait to see you there. Now, it is my high honor and great privilege to introduce to you Sunil Marolia, Vice President of Product Management at LoJack. Sunil, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Renee. Great to be here.
All right, so let's just get into this. Spireon took ownership of LoJack just last year. Why did Spireon purchase the LoJack brand?
Yeah, we had actually been in market with a solution for connected car, really targeting dealers for about the last just over 5 years now. And we had predecessor products to that called Skylink. And so this name that we originally launched under was called Kahu. And, you know, if you kind of research Kahu in Hawaiian means protector, while very symbolic, it did not really resonate with consumers or dealers from a name perspective. In fact, I would say one of the biggest criticisms of the product was the name itself. So, you know, when the opportunity came along to be able to take on that LoJack name, we took a close look at that. And in fact, doing some research, we found that, you know, it was one of the most recognizable brands in telematics, specifically around stolen vehicle recovery. It's a brand that has gone back many years and is still recognized today. In fact, it looked like from our research that this was probably the second best known brand, just behind OnStar. So, you know, for us, it was a very good matchup. We had a leading product in the market, one that was really gaining momentum among both dealers and consumers, and we just felt like LoJack was a good fit in terms of a brand. Just gives us that extra boost to help with explaining what the product does for consumers.
So the LoJack brand has been around for over 30 years and has changed owners at least twice now. What makes LoJack by Spireon different from previous versions?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I think LoJack was sort of came out and was really hot in maybe the 80s, perhaps. So it dates back quite a ways. The original thesis for LoJack was a stolen vehicle recovery system that would be integrated with law enforcement. You know, this was really predating the maturity of cell phones and modern cell phone technology. So it was based off an older technology that used RF frequencies to be able to sort of detect, kind of like a beacon technology is how I would best describe it. That required the installation of specialized hardware and receivers in the police vehicles and helicopters. It required special hardware to be installed in the vehicles of the consumers, and it required a whole network to be built out that could relay all the signals around to these different components. So it was quite an undertaking, but highly effective. You know, highly effective for the time, which lasted quite some time. But fast forward, with cellular technology evolving and becoming more mainstream, the introduction of the internet out of Department of Defense and into the public domain, that whole internet revolution has changed how we live our lives, right? Add to that the introduction of smartphones in that ecosystem, because even after cellular technology, we still weren't at the computing level that we are today. So further evolution from Apple and Google and those kinds of things, has really sort of changed the way we communicate, change what's possible. Yet LoJack sort of remained static that whole time because obviously it took a lot of investment to get that infrastructure in place. It was effective, even for government and municipalities, that system's already been in place and, they're used to that. But it really kind of required, rethinking in terms of, okay, well, given where we've come with technology and our mobile communications, does this legacy technology still make sense, or should we be moving on? And so really, the newer technology sort of rethinks the whole thing in terms of how we can be more precise with locating vehicles. We can provide more services to consumers. We can provide more services to dealers with all this precision. And so really it sort of carries on the themes around some of the use cases for stolen vehicle, but we've expanded that quite a bit. So dealers can now manage all of their vehicles, know exactly where every single vehicle is on and off lot. We can now give consumers the ability to not only notify police when their vehicle is stolen, but now know where the vehicles are, be alerted if they cross into certain areas, be aware if they're crossing over certain speed thresholds. So there's a number of new things that we can do now that LoJack has introduced. And so it really went from sort of a single purpose technology to a multi-purpose technology, and one that does the job a lot better.
Well, I'm not sure if there's more to explore here, but can you speak more about why GPS is a superior technology than the previous version of LoJack?
Yeah, that's a good question. GPS has been in use by the defense for quite a while, probably even before LoJack was out there. But again, that is something that was also introduced to the public domain out of defense, and it is used broadly across so many industries now to give very, very precise location. It did require sort of a technology evolution to get there. But now, within 3 meters, we know of any, we can detect any asset. And it's very, very precise using, multiple satellites, and sensitive receivers that get installed in vehicles. We now get that level of precision. Whereas LoJack, like I said, was a beaconing system. So you kind of have to follow the beacon around, and sort of playing hot cold. If you ever remember that childhood game when it basically said, you're getting warmer, you're hot, you're boiling. That was really where legacy LoJack was. I mean, obviously, it's all computerized, so it's not quite the same, but that's just an analogy of where it is and the level of precision. It was also susceptible to, building deflections and things like that. So there were things that would throw off those signals, and you could be looking at a vehicle that was maybe pointing north, and then you go a block and now it's pointed south, and so there were definitely disruptions. Now, of course, at the time it was a revolutionary technology, but the whole setup is very different. Beaconing technology, where you're just kind of knowing the direction if you're getting closer or not, versus a technology that is calculated down to a few meters of where something is.
Got it. So I'm going to rearrange some of my questions here because I think they just flow a little better in this order. But why should dealers in particular adopt LoJack, bring it into their dealership?
Yeah, I mean, LoJack, I think compared to the traditional, legacy LoJack, it was always been thought of as a aftermarket solution for stolen vehicle recovery, one that can be sold in and added on to any vehicle as the consumer desires. But we're getting to a point where retailing has changed quite a bit. Consumer expectations have changed quite a bit. Back in the day, your discovery of vehicles was when a consumer went on the lot. Nowadays, most of this research for consumer vehicles is done online, and there's a thorough amount of research done by consumers online, and they're also used to retail experiences like Amazon, where they can do their research, they can pick what they want, click a button, and 2 days that's going to show up at their front door. And so that's sort of the mentality. We are becoming a more real-time society. When we have debates or we're sitting around the fireplace talking about stuff, Before it was opinions and like, I think it's this, or somebody told me this. Now we look it up. If we disagree, we look it up, right? And it's like a matter of seconds, you have that information. So as a society, we are more real time. People can communicate with us more real time. And so the car shopping experience has to be more real time as well. And to that extent, when somebody steps on the lot, they no longer have the patience to wait 30 minutes for somebody to go find out if the vehicle exists, where it is, why, where are the keys, etc. They're really looking for experience where, yeah, it's on your website. I expect to see it here within like 5 minutes. And so this LoJack for the dealer, first of all, will speed up that sales cycle. With a mobile app, every salesperson, every personnel at the dealership can basically look up the vehicle by partial VIN, by description, and right away we'll know exactly where that vehicle is, whether it's on lot, off lot, test drive, maybe offside of the body shop, etc. They know exactly and have accountability for 100% of their vehicles and can quickly accelerate that shopping experience, which fits what the customer's expectations are. That also gives them more time to be able to provide additional information about those vehicles and the options that are available with that vehicle as well. So the overall shopping experience is better for both parties. Theft is on the rise as well. We went almost a decade with continuously decreasing vehicle thefts, but now they're on a rise, and not just on a rise, but on a rampage, I would say. And so to protect those assets, now dealers can also use this technology as a preload to be able to recover their vehicles in the case that they get stolen. And then finally, sort of the last value prop I'll just mention is that they are able to streamline their floor planning audits. Most of the vehicles are on commercial loans that require regular audits. And so the previous process was, okay, same kind of thing. Like, okay, we need to see these 3 vehicles. Where are they? And that results in, a lot of time from the staff, potential write-offs. And now with LoJack preloaded at the dealership, it's a streamlined process. Any vehicle, anytime, they know exactly where it is.
One other thing that I understand that dealerships are struggling with sometimes is service retention. Does LoJack by Spireon offer anything in terms of addressing that concern?
Yeah, so the dealer is able to sell this product through to the consumer. We're having very good response rates from the consumer. If you look at, the app stores and the ratings, you'll see a 4.8 star rating on the iTunes store for LoJack. We have a lot of engagement, over 27,000 ratings, and that's just growing. I think by the time this podcast airs, we'll have increased that number. So the beauty is that consumers are engaged with the app. They're appreciating the value it provides, being able to quickly find location, and it is differentiated from what they're getting at the OEM. Whereas the OEMs are given oftentimes the last parked location, LoJack, and what specializes in giving real-time location at any point in that, in the day for that vehicle. So, and there's obviously other monitoring features that we provide as well that are being appreciated. And because of that engagement, which is, anywhere from 8 to 12 times a month per consumer, it does open up a great opportunity for dealers to be able to engage through that app. And so, so LoJack has included module called My Dealer that provides in-app branding for the dealership. It leverages that multiple use per month for consumer, and it has a campaign system that allows dealers to set up notifications to be pushed to the consumer. And of course, we know that mobile phone engagement is at the highest. That is where, if you look around all over the place, people's heads and faces are buried in their phones. That's where people's attentions are. In fact, it's often hard to get their attention away from that phone. So it's a great place to engage. LoJack's automated a lot of that process because, it's one thing to be able to have a great engagement tool, but if you have to add resources or add additional tasks to a dealer, it sort of defeats the purpose. But LoJack allows because, we are monitoring the mileage driven. We understand what the OEM maintenance schedules are. We're integrated, so we understand when the consumer had their last service and what that mileage is. We can basically automate that whole engagement process, sending notifications out on an individual level, specifically tailored to that one owner and their vehicle. And so that's really appreciated. Our surveys from consumers have shown that when it comes to maintenance and safety, they do want to hear about these things from dealers. They do want to be engaged. That goes for maintenance, that goes for recalls and other safety things. So it becomes a very effective tool post-sale for dealers to continue to drive that engagement, retain customers, and pull them in for very relevant services that the consumer is going to need anyways.
So one last question is, I understand that the OEMs have similar offerings, at least a few of them do. Can you speak to how LoJack complements those services? Yeah,
we've done quite a bit of research and deep diving. And in fact, we work with a few OEMs as well. If you look at the OEM apps, what they amount to is sort of an enhanced key fob. Right? OEMs, the cars come with key fobs where you can lock, unlock, honk the horn, remote start. The apps generally do the same thing as well. They're command control based functions. They also provide some information, perhaps tire pressure, fuel level, things like that. And they definitely sprinkle some location services in there, but the degree to the location services is fairly limited. At best, we'll see, last parked location. So if the vehicle's on a drive, you're not going to get that location. Some apps provide some trip data, but they'll delay it, 24 hours, so you're not going to see that right away. And so where LoJack really excels is the fact that people want to know where their car is, and they don't want to know where it was last parked. If they're taking the time to look it up, they want to know where it is right now. They want to know where the car has been, especially if you have a teen driver or a loved one. You want to know, where were those trips? Were they speeding on those trips? You want to be sort of constantly be reminded that you sort of become in the habit of knowing, like, yes, they reached home, they reached work, they reached school, and it gives them just sort of that satisfaction and that, understanding of, like, everything's good. And so that's where we're seeing a lot of the usage, and that's generally where the OEMs lack features. It is, we talk about real-time location. We report once a minute whenever that car is moving. So you've got a very up-to-date, location, and that can become quite expensive for OEMs who, it's a lot of data. You think about every car driving and reporting in location every minute. It becomes a huge cost burden for OEM. So unless they have other ways of monetizing, it just becomes a huge cost center. So it's very difficult for them to scale in that way. They are still car manufacturers. They're transitioning, but they're not necessarily, a software development house at this point. So, and just developing software is one thing. Running and scaling those platforms is a whole nother task. So to be able to provide that level of granularity, the customer experience, which is key for developers. We don't just put out software with functions. We put out usable functions, like things that, entice the consumer, that are intuitive, and that's often the feedback we get versus other OEM apps. Like, you open an OEM app, you usually have to navigate. The first thing you're going to see are the controls, which, like I said, it is a key fob in an app. You can navigate to location. You might get last parked, but all that takes time. Whereas they just want to know location. Whereas LoJack, it's what we specialize on. You open that app, within seconds, you've got the location. So, by the time you even log in an OEM app, you've already been in the LoJack app and you're out and you know exactly where that car is. So it makes a big difference, and we're serving sort of different purposes there.
Well, this all sounds exciting, and it seems like this new chapter for the LoJack brand is going to be bright. Before I let you go, Sunil, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I just know that you did an intro to NADA. I will be there. I look forward to meeting with our current dealers and new prospective dealers, and we've got a very significant roadmap coming out. We continue to drive interest on the consumer side and build features. We do regular annual consumer surveys, and our LoJack consumers are very responsive on that. So we get great feedback from the market on what matters to them. We're not We're not filling our apps with just a bunch of features. And this goes for both consumers and dealers. We're really focused on the ones that move the needle, so to speak. And so we've got a lot of great things to share and look forward to that experience.
Great. Thank you so much for your time today, Sunil. We'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're a franchise dealer and you'd like to learn more about how LoJack can help your dealership get more aftermarket sales, more lot management, and more service retention, then please visit LoJack.com. That's LoJack.com. LoJack, LoJack.com.